Silicon Valley, technology, art, green, and sustainability.
Welcome to another episode of Silicon Valley Tech, Art, Green, and Sustainability. Today I have with me a lady who's, I'm just honored that you're here. You're so knowledgeable in many fields, in life science, high tech, many fields, but you didn't start out that way. You developed Fountain Blue, and it's very famous here in Silicon Valley to a lot of people for the events that you created around those, and also your reputation in marketing and communications. So Linda Holroyd, thank you, and I'm Holroyd?
Holroyd. It rhymes with Polaroid.
Okay, and thank you very much for coming. I've been to a couple of your events in the past, and they were amazing events. I haven't been recently, been a little busy, but tell us about yourself. Tell us a little background about yourself before we get into about Fountain Blue.
Great. I so appreciate the opportunity to come speak.
Thank you.
So my background is, I started from pretty humble roots. I was born in Hong Kong, the second of 4 children. And basically my mom and dad had the opportunity to come to America, and my dad wanted to come first and send for the rest of the family, but my mom insisted that we stay together. So we stayed together. She won out. And so we had $20 in our pocket, 4 children, ages 7, 5, 4, and 2.
Wow.
And basically we had a place to stay with my aunt.
And what year was that?
And this was, oh, you're going to date me.
No, around.
1968.
Okay.
So I was the 5-year-old.
So you were a baby at that time.
I was 5-year-old, yes. This was in the first life. So I was the 5-year-old, and my parents had $20 in their pockets, and we were off on an adventure. And the only reason why I knew how much they had in their pocket was because my dad deplaned in Japan, and he bought a Coke for 50 cents.
Wow.
And my mom and dad had an argument because he spent 2.5% of our fortune. And my dad said, I spent 50 cents. And basically he said that he'll never have an opportunity to go anywhere else but America. He'll be, basically spending the rest of his life, his career, raising the kids and basically working in America. So it was his adventure.
And where did your family land then?
So on the other side of it, after that conversation, I basically said, Mom, you're right. It is 2.5% of our fortune.
And you were 5 years old.
I was 5 years old.
Cute.
And I said, we don't know what jobs we will have, but don't worry about it. Dad, you're right. I'm glad you got your Coke. And then basically I knew that when we landed in San Francisco and our aunt came to pick us up, that I had to help hold the family together so both my parents could work.
That's a lot of responsibility for a 5-year-old to think.
I don't know. I guess I'm a little different.
Yeah, well, of course.
But my mom asked my sister to take care of the kids so that they could both work. And my sister said, no, I'm 7. And so my mom asked me, and I said, somebody has to. Wow. So I really felt like I had to be the one to cook and clean and wash the clothes and teach my parents English so that they can get jobs and basically provide for us. And I knew all this time that we were in poverty. We wanted or not. It's not like we didn't have our basic needs taken. We had a room to stay in. We had food. We had the basics of public education.
You had a roof over your head and
exactly.
Yeah.
I wasn't homeless or anything like that, but I did know that I wanted to help the family kind of spin out of that poverty situation and find those opportunities, and I knew that education was the ticket. So,
and this was all at 5 years old?
This is 5 years old, and kind of fast forward, and I'm the overachiever in school.
I wasn't like that at 5. I was playing, climbing trees, riding horses.
Oh yeah, I was bossy back then too, Heather. I can't help it.
You're not bossy, you're great. Assertive, right? We're assertive.
I remember having to create games to entertain my brothers to make sure that they stayed out of the way because my mom first started working downstairs and I was supposed to manage the kids so that they didn't basically tear down the house while she worked and such. And one of the games, my favorite game, was there was this really long hallway, and I guess it wasn't quite so long when I go back at it, looking at it as an adult. But what I'd love to do, I taught them to do this, is go from one end of the house to the other, basically singing the Hawaii Five-O theme song, da 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 da, and then just like surfing the carpet, because we're never going to go to Hawaii. But if you surf the carpet, it's sort of like surfing. So making up games like that are fun, but inexpensive and entertaining without getting anybody hurt. So anyway, we did that kind of thing.
So 2 questions that just came out of this. So did you ever go to Hawaii with your family?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then did your dad ever travel anywhere else again?
Not really.
Okay.
So,
Because you
and
said
I'm
this
getting
would
off
probably be the
point.
last. Yeah. No, it's all good.
But yes, I did travel to Hawaii, but not with my immediate family then. It was after I got married, and we actually had a timeshare in Hawaii with my husband
So
and
that's your
daughter.
family.
Yeah, so that's my current family, but I didn't go with the family that I grew up with. And my dad did go to Canada, and he did go back to China, yes, afterwards. And what he knew wasn't really what happened. So he created those opportunities. He was the head of a music group, and he brought a musical tour to China to teach them Chinese opera because they were losing their culture, with the communism and all that stuff. And so he developed a culture here because he had those roots, and he brought that back there. So he was an interesting person.
So when did he get back to China?
Oh, it was like in the 90s or so.
Okay.
So like way
So
back
it was after
when.
the
So it's
82 or 84.
After we got out of the house, I went to college and such. I put myself through college. I went to UC Davis, and I was a preschool teacher, and I was a note taker and a typist, and whatever it took to kind of put my way through school. And my brother put his way through school by going to the Marines first, and my other brother went to dentistry school, and I helped fund his education too.
So you have a very good dentist.
I do, and I remember he had such great rote memory, and he loved doing all these detailed stuff, and so it really makes sense that he's in dentistry and working on the little details. And I know that he would make the best dentist in town because he pays attention to all the details. He's down south in the UCLA area. In fact, when he graduated, his professor gave him his practice because he was the top student there. So I don't worry about him.
So you're all successful. Congratulations. That's great.
We're all happy. We all, did well, got married, produced kids, and my parents were very happy at what happened and what we did with the opportunity they provided for us. So, to continue the story, so those are my humble roots.
Right.
And so I'm kind of an anomaly in that I was very grown up in some ways, taking charge of the family at the age of 5, but knew so little of the world in other ways and not very connected and such. So I thought, okay, so what do I do with my life? What's my purpose? What's my career?
Well, again, I want to back up a little bit. So before you started Fountain Blue, you were a school teacher.
Right.
Kindergarten, you said, or?
Right,
okay.
Right.
Which is very interesting segue into what you've been doing.
Exactly. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I don't like blood, so I'm not a doctor, and I hate to argue,
Me either.
so I'm not a lawyer. So what does that leave me? It leaves me as teaching because I taught, my parents and my younger siblings and all my cousins because my mom brought her brothers over and all their kids, and of course I taught them all English and such, and so I'm a natural teacher. So I said, well, that's my first career. I'm an elementary school teacher, so that's what I did first. I did that for 6 years, all in Silicon Valley. Elementary school, 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grades, and I also student taught in San Francisco in social studies, middle school. All really interesting experiences.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, I basically put my way through school teaching preschool. And I consider that my leadership development course.
So 6 years altogether, or the preschool and the student teaching, all that, was that more than 6 years?
It was more than 6 years.
Okay.
It was probably, like, by the time I put myself through college, and maybe it was a year. I mean, it was part-time when I was going through college.
A little here, a little there, like
such.
you do in college.
Yeah, and then the teaching program, you have coursework, and then you had a little bit of student teaching, and then you had more of the full-time student teaching. So patch it all together, 6.5, 7 years or so, give or take,
So how did that segue into Fountain Blue then?
So when after I decided that I wasn't going to be an elementary school teacher anymore, because there was only so much impact I could have as an individual classroom teacher, and I wanted to have more impact. And I also saw some of the kids that I couldn't really touch. If their family is worse off than the kid is, there's only so much you can do. And when you see them making the wrong choices and going the wrong path, it was really troubling to me. And I decided that I had to do something for myself, because it really was not good for me emotionally to be involved and to see these kids and not be able to help spin them out.
Because you care about
that
them.
cycle.
You care about their future and what happens.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
So